What if the greatest threat to humanity wasn't some monster from the deep or an invading army, but a god? A god born from the fury of the sun itself, sent to punish us, who got so lost in her own bloodlust she nearly wiped us off the face of the earth. And what if the only thing that saved us all wasn't a hero's sword or some divine truce, but thousands and thousands of gallons of beer? This is the story of Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of war, whose rage almost drank the world dry. And it's the story of how one divine hangover saved us all. This isn't just a myth about destruction. It's a story about the terrifying, untamable power of nature, the delicate balance between order and chaos, and how sometimes the most fearsome power can be pacified with a really clever trick. So prepare to meet the goddess known as the Mistress of Dread, the Lady of Slaughter, and the one before whom evil trembles. This is the story of Sekhmet, the problem humanity's rebellion. So, how did our world get pushed to the very brink? We have to go back to a time when gods walked among mortals. The great sun god Ra, creator of everything, was ruling over Egypt as its very first pharaoh. For ages, his rule was fair and prosperous. He was the source of all life, and humanity, which he'd created from his own tears, was thriving. But time wears down everyone, even a god. Re grew old. His body began to fail him. His bones turned to silver, his flesh to gold, and his hair to the color of lapis lazuli. And as he got weaker, so did his authority. People started whispering in the shadows. Soon, those whispers turned into open rebellion. Humanity, his own children, started plotting against him, convinced he was too old and frail to be in charge anymore. They stopped living by Maat, the sacred principle of cosmic order and justice that literally held the universe together. Their rebellion wasn't just treason against a king. It was a crack in the foundations of reality itself. Ra, being the all-seeing god, knew exactly what they were up to. His heart, which once held love for his creations, now burned with anger. He had given them life, and now he was thinking about taking it away. He called a council of the other gods and asked them a terrible question. Should he unleash his full power and just wipe them all out? Nun, the primordial god of the watery, chaos from which Ra himself was born, gave him some advice. He said Ra shouldn't destroy all of humanity, but instead send a force to punish just the rebels and restore order. It was a fateful decision. Ra wouldn't destroy the world himself, but he would create a weapon to do it for him, a weapon of unimaginable fury. The solution, the unleashing of Sekhmet *** from the fire in his own eye, Re forged his vengeance. He took the goddess Hathor, who was usually known for joy and love, and twisted her into a terrifying weapon of pure wrath. In that moment, Sekhmet was born. Her name comes from the Egyptian word Sikim, meaning power. And believe me, she was power incarnate. She was a fearsome warrior goddess with the body of a woman and the head of a lioness, crowned with the blazing sun and the sacred cobra of divine authority. She was the physical embodiment of Ra's rage, the personification of the scorching, unforgiving desert sun. The hot desert winds were said to be her breath, spreading fire and plague. Wherever she went, she was given titles that made her mission perfectly clear: Lady of Slaughter, the Mauler, and Mistress of Dread. Ra made her for one terrible reason: to punish the wicked and remind humanity of the price of defying the gods. Armed with this brutal directive, Sekhmet descended upon the earth, and this divine solution was about to become a far, far bigger problem than the one it was meant to solve. The rampage, the bloodbath. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was an apocalypse. Unleashed from all restraint, Sekhmet fell upon the towns and cities of Egypt with a fury that had no limits. She wasn't some disciplined soldier following orders. She was a force of nature, pure rage in motion. Her lioness instincts took over, and she slaughtered mortals without distinction. The ancient texts paint a horrific picture. The fields of Egypt ran red with rivers of blood that stained the Nile itself. Sekhmet stalked the land, her form a terrifying silhouette, against a sky choked with smoke. And she didn't just kill. She reveled in it. She became known as she who dances in blood, because she took a grim pleasure in wading through the carnage she created. The rebels who mocked Ra fell first, but her rampage didn't stop there. Once she tasted blood, her thirst became bottomless. She hunted down the innocent right alongside the guilty men, women, and children. No plea for mercy could reach her. No fortress could stop her. She was a divine plague, the sun's fiery retribution made real, and it seemed like she wouldn't stop until every last human heart stopped beating. The world was being unmade, drowned in its own blood by the very goddess sent to save it. The turning point? The gods regret *** from his throne in the heavens. Re watched the destruction. At first, he might have felt a grim satisfaction, but as the slaughter dragged on, day after bloody day, his satisfaction turned to pure horror. This wasn't the targeted punishment he'd wanted. This was annihilation. Sekhmet's bloodlust was now a runaway storm of violence. She wasn't listening to him anymore. She was driven by her own insatiable thirst. Ra and the other gods realized they'd made a huge mistake. They had unleashed a power they couldn't control. Ra called out to her, ordering her to stop, but his voice was drowned out by the sounds of her rampage. He'd created her to restore balance, but she had become the ultimate agent of chaos. If they didn't stop her, she would scour all life from the earth, leaving behind a silent, empty planet. The gods faced a terrifying problem. Their ultimate weapon had turned on them. They couldn't destroy Sekhmet, she was a part of Ra himself, but they couldn't stop her by force either. Her power was just too immense. A direct fight was out of the question. They needed a trick, something clever enough to soothe the rage that divine commands could no longer tame. The fate of the world now rested on an act of divine deception. The climax, the divine trick ***. As the last remnants of humanity huddled together, awaiting their end, Rie came up with a desperate, brilliant plan. He couldn't overpower Sekhmet's rage, but maybe he could outsmart her bloodlust. He sent his fastest messengers to the island of Elephantine in the south of Egypt to bring back tons of red ochre. At the same time, he ordered everyone to brew a massive amount of beer. The texts mention a staggering 7,000 jugs. The plan was simple, but genius. As Sekhmet rested from her day of slaughter, Ra had his followers grind the red ochre into a fine powder and mix it into the thousands of gallons of beer. The mineral stained to brew a deep crimson, making it look exactly like human blood. This divine cocktail was then poured all over the fields where Sekhmet was expected to continue her killing spree, creating a shallow lake of what looked like blood. When the sun rose, Sekhmet woke up, her thirst for violence raging. She set out to continue the massacre, but stopped dead in her tracks. Before her was a vast lake of blood gleaming in the morning light. The myths say a look of delight spread across her lioness face. Believing this was the collected blood of yesterday's victims, she waded in and started to drink, and drink, and drink. Her bloodlust was so overpowering that she never noticed what she was actually gulping down. She gorged herself on the red liquid until the alcohol finally hit her. The fiercest goddess in the pantheon, the great and terrible Sekhmet, got completely and utterly drunk. Her rage melted away, her body relaxed, and she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Her rampage was over, brought to an end not by a weapon, but by an epic hangover. The aftermath and transformation Sekhmet slept for 3 whole days. When she finally woke up, the world was quiet. The drunken haze had washed away her insatiable fury. The bloodlust was gone, replaced by a deep calm. The Lady of Slaughter had been pacified. Humanity was saved. In some versions of the myth, she awakens as the gentle goddess Hathor, her destructive side completely gone. In others, she remains Sekhmet, but her rage is now. Under her control, a focused power, not a wildfire. This event was so important to the Egyptians that they celebrated it every year with the Festival of Drunkenness. During this festival, Egyptians would gather to dance, play music, and most importantly, drink incredible amounts of beer and wine. They would drink until they passed out, ritually imitating the drunkenness that had saved the world. It was a sacred party on the edge of the apocalypse, a yearly reminder that chaos had been stopped by divine intoxication. The festival was a critical ritual to appease Sekhmet and make sure her destructive side stayed dormant for another year. Thematic exploration, the healer and protector asterisk. And this is where the story of Sekhmet gets really fascinating, because the goddess known as the Molar, the one who nearly wiped out all life, was also worshipped as one of the most powerful gods of healing and medicine. This shocking paradox is the key to understanding who she really is. Sekhmet embodies a kind of duality. Think about it. The same sun that can cause drought and death also provides the warmth needed for life. In the same way, Sekhmet held both destruction and healing in her hands. She was thought to be the cause of plagues and disease. Her messengers were the illnesses that swept through the land. If you angered Sekhmet, you were inviting pestilence. But because she had power over disease, she also had the power to cure it. She was the patron goddess of doctors and healers. Her priests were often skilled physicians who used a mix of magic and practical medicine to treat the sick. They believed that by praying to Sekhmet, they could convince her to stop the very plagues she commanded. In this role, she earned a whole different set of titles, like the Mistress of Life. On top of all that, this fearsome goddess was also a fierce protector of the pharaohs and a guardian of cosmic justice. Pharaohs saw her as their military patron, believing she rode with them in battle, breathing fire on their enemies. Great rulers like Rameses II proudly put her on their banners. She wasn't just a destroyer. She was the ultimate protector, the embodiment of power that could be used to either tear the world apart or hold it together. Sekhmet is so much more than a bloodthirsty monster. She's a symbol of a fundamental truth, that the forces of nature are both violent and nurturing, destructive and life-giving. She's the raging fire that clears the way for new growth. She's the terrifying plague and the miraculous cure that follows. She is the Lady of Terror and the Mistress of Life, locked together in one divine being. Her story is a powerful reminder of the duality in everything: the sun that burns and warms, the storm that destroys and replenishes. Sekhmet represents the raw, untamable power that sits at the heart of existence, a power that has to be respected, appeased, and every now and then tricked with a whole lot of beer. She shows us that the line between chaos and order, destruction and protection, is thinner than we think. What do you think of this incredible myth? Is Sekhmet a villain, a hero, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into Egyptian mythology, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the ancient gods. Thanks for watching.